Right. That was the hallmark. Stand by, Lindsey. We'll take a break. Come right back. Keep in mind that this astonishing amount of pressure is not diminishing. It is now coming up through fractures, apparently, in multiple locations. We don't know how many exactly. This pipe is at any moment could be blown right out of the hole. The erosion of the surface of the pipe has now reduced it. It was 2 inches thick. It is now less than 1 inch thick, simply from the erosion effects of the material coming up through and around it. It's about to be blown out of the hole. That'll happen at any time. And then, what do we have? We have an even worse catastrophe. Back with Lindsey Williams in just a minute. I think we're back, and let's get right to business with Lindsey Williams. Lindsey, as you said when you were up at Prudhoe for those years, the first thing that people would talk about when a well was brought in was the flow rate. Please continue.
Flow rate was number one, and immediately after that, they would give the pressure, the well head. Be sure to notice these words, well head pressure of that particular oil well. Nowhere has anyone in the media, have I seen any place, any authoritative source that has ever told the wellhead pressure of this well in the Gulf of Mexico. Now, let me compare this to Prudhoe Bay before I give you the figures. Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, oil wells in America's oil field up on the Arctic Ocean ran usually 1,500 pounds per square inch, PSI.
1,500.
Let's compare that to something.
All right.
An automobile tire is approximately 35 pounds per square inch. A truck tire on the big rigs runs somewhere between 100 to 110 pounds per square inch. My sources that I contacted, whom I mentioned a moment ago, said that the BP Gulf of Mexico oil well has a wellhead pressure of, you ready, between 20 and 70,000 PSI, pounds per square inch. This is beyond human technology.
20 and 70,000, 20,000 to 70,000, and it varies, or it's somewhere in between there. This is so over the top, Lindsey, that even to talk about capping that is absurd. It's not going to happen.
Well, no, you're right, and I'll get to that in just a moment because they gave me predictions as to what's going to happen. So, folks, I hope you have those pencils and paper ready. Now, there is one thing that I found out from a very confidential BP management source. On the top of that well is what is called a fail-safe valve, F-A-I-L-S-A-F-E valve. It's supposed to hold when everything else gives. And there was a conversation between the foreman on the platform before the explosion and one of the workers, and the worker said to the foreman, the fail-safe valve has been damaged. It's warped. We need to change it. The foreman said, I don't have time. We got to get this well underway, and he did not change it. It may have held it. Most of my sources say it probably wouldn't have held anyway because the pressure exceeds anything that we've ever seen before. So the fail-safe valve, they did make one mistake that was drastic, and as a result, my sources are saying, I know it's much more than this, and you can tell me the latest of what your people are telling you, but my sources said to me, we want to be extremely conservative. Jeff, as you know, the people that I contact are the elite themselves, and these people don't exaggerate. Whenever they say something, you can be assured that they're going to say it within the limit of what they know is the truth. And I'm sure it's much more than this, but my sources said that it is flowing at the rate of 4 million gallons a day. I'm sure it much exceeds that. What have you been hearing?
Oh, the amount of oil coming out a day? 100,000 is one figure I've heard. I heard a lot of figures. I don't honestly think anyone who knows is talking. And all they're trying to do now is talk. They're discussing various ways of trying to measure the flow and all this stuff. What really concerns me, Lindsey, is nature abhors a vacuum. This oil is coming out of an intensely pressurized dome or field or cavity deep in the earth. We don't know how big it could be half the size of the United States. We don't have any idea. When this oil, which has been spewed into the Gulf of Mexico, eventually runs out of pressure, if it does, I should throw that in there, we don't know. There is going to be an opening, space, a void, a vacuum, as it were, in the cavity from whence the oil came. And as one doctor, Ph.D., wrote, and you know this very well, and many of you listening know this from reading it at Rense.com and then perhaps other places too, the water is going to go down that hole and fill that cavity. It's under tremendous pressure a mile deep, and that water is going to be pushed by that pressure down into that hole to fill that empty space in that cavity, wherever it is and whenever it can be filled. We don't know how long this pressure is going to stay. Could last for years, we don't know. And when that water goes down into that hole and into that cavity, it's going to meet temperatures in excess of 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Water boils, I think most of you know, at 212. We're talking about the potential here of a blast of thermonuclear magnitude, raising the floor, creating a tsunami 20 to 80 feet tall, some estimates, which could destroy all life up to 50 miles inland. It could result in an enormous cave-in and fracturing and cratering of the Gulf of Mexico floor, which will open up that entire cavity of oil, however big it is, which could then turn the seas black. This is a potential extinction-level event, a potential extinction-level event. Now, I want to hear what your sources, which are the best, have to say about some of these things, please. We'll take a break, come right back with Lindsey Williams as we get an insider's inside look at what is really going on. In the meantime, you people keep in mind, benzene is a killer. I don't want to start a panic, but I do believe that people have a right to know. When they talk about 0 to 4 parts per billion being safe, to me only 0 is safe. But you've got 3,400 parts per billion now being measured in the air being breathed by human beings in the Gulf, on land. We'll be right back. Right back to our conversation with Lindsey Williams. Here's I can't resist, Lindsey, before you get right back to your fascinating narrative. Associated Press reporting, in a newly optimistic tone, President Barack Obama promised today that, quote, things are going to return to normal, end quote, along the stricken Gulf Coast, and the region's fouled waters will be in even better shape than before the catastrophic BP oil spill. Boy, this is desperation propaganda time, folks. Please go ahead, Lindsey.
This man is totally out of touch with all reality, and he must be living in some dream world somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Will BP be able to stop the flow of the oil? That was one of my first questions to these oil company officials. And the first thing that was said was, I hope so. Now, many methods have been tried. Everything that they thought would work to this point has been tried. One authority said to me, Chaplain, the only thing that's left is a nuclear device. But, and oh my goodness, Jeff, I could hear almost fear in his voice when he said, but. I said, what do you mean? He said, Chaplain, if we're successful, we will be the heroes of the world. He said, if we fail, because of the extreme pressures that are on this particular strata of oil that BP has drilled into, where nothing, no one has ever experienced these pressures of 20 to 70,000 pounds per square inch before, he said, if we use that nuclear device, he said, and we don't succeed, but we rupture the strata even